When Matthew Newton went for a walk in the Alaska wilderness, he wanted to take breathtaking pictures with his camera. He walked with his camera through the snow-covered plains and frozen forests and hoped that he would be able to capture with his camera not only beautiful nature, but also some wild animals. However, the man was also aware of the danger of this area. It was home to a variety of dangerous predators such as bears and wolves. But he had experience with wild animals and knew what to do if he met one of them. So overall he felt safe, but he had no idea what he would experience that day. After walking through the snow for some time, Matthew noticed the animal some distance ahead of him. It looked like a lynx. Matthew picked up the camera and started taking as many photos as possible. He crawled a little closer, hoping that the lynx wouldn't get scared and run away. But fortunately, he stopped in place and looked around. He even looked directly into the camera as Matthew took more and more photos. The man boldly crept closer and was surprised that the big cat still hadn't run away. Something about all this seemed very strange. Matthew lowered the camera and looked curiously at the lynx. The lynx looked back with the same curiosity. In all his years, the man had never experienced anything like this. It was a really special moment. Then the lynx did something completely unexpected. He walked slowly towards Matthew. Normally, he would have tried to scare him away. Lynx can be very dangerous. They are intelligent predators and very skilled at killing. But something about this animal caught his attention. The lynx seemed to be begging him. His eyes begged him for help. Matthew stopped when the lynx caught up with him and the animal began to move him away from the bush. It was a little off the road, and Matthew was a little worried that no one would find him if anything happened to him. But curiosity finally got the better of him, and he followed the trot away from the path to the thicket. As he walked, the lynx kept looking back to make sure Matthew was still following him, a very strange and bizarre situation. But what Matthew saw when he reached the bushes made his heart sink. There sat a poor lynx puppy trapped in a trap attached to its hind leg. It seemed that the mother wanted Matthew to try to help the cub and save his life. Because without human intervention, the poor cub would surely have died. Matthew had the presence of mind to get to work. He knew that he could not leave the poor animal to its fate. Matthew reached into his pocket, took out an emergency tool and began to disassemble the trap. Finally, he pulled back, exposing one of the puppy's cut and bruised legs. Matthew rinsed him out and cleaned the wound as best he could. Fortunately, the wound was not too serious and, hopefully, it will heal on its own. Then the lynx mother took care of the puppy and gently licked her cub. She didn't even look at the man as he got up and walked back to the trail. Matthew didn't need praise, even though he knew he had done a good deed. However, the man had no idea what incredible things would happen next. The rest of Matthew's adventure trip was uneventful. He took a lot of photos and enjoyed the silence and solitude of nature. When he returned home that evening, he took a warm shower, ate a hot meal, and then went to bed. All the time he was thinking about the unusual encounter with the lynx that day. Then he quickly fell asleep with a smile on his face. The next morning, he woke up to a loud noise coming from outside. It was a tapping and scratching sound that he had never heard before. He was immediately on high alert, sat and listened intently, believing that an intruder was trying to enter his house. Worried, Matthew got dressed and grabbed the baseball bat he kept in the corner of his bedroom. If there had been an intruder, Matthews would have made sure that he regretted his decision to break into his house. He put his hand on the door handle before opening the door wide and preparing to hit with the bat. But there was no one there. And yet there was this strange noise. When the man looked back, he realized that the sound was coming from his porch. Slowly and quietly, he walked over to the window that looked out onto the porch. If there had been anyone there, they would have had a good look at him. But he couldn't believe what he saw. He was shocked. Matthew looked out the window, not quite sure what he expected to see. But his gaze fell on a strange but familiar sight. It was a lynx mother, with whom he had helped on a camping trip the day before. She scratched at the door and patrolled back and forth. It seemed that the animal had followed him home and wanted to thank him for his kindness. But the lynx was not alone. She brought her boys with her, and they all huddled together, curiously watching their mother. He even noticed a small trotter with an injured leg. He was glad to see that it looked much less swollen and irritated than the day before. Apparently, the child is on the mend. As soon as the lynxes noticed that he was watching them from the window, they yapped excitedly. Matthew grabbed his camera and began documenting the strange and incredible phenomenon on his porch. It seemed that the lynxes had come to repay him for his kindness. Usually timid and unsociable animals played, rode, and even slept on his porch. They stayed there for about an hour. Finally, the lynx mother got up and walked down the porch steps and back into the wild. Her cubs obediently followed her, forming a line and trotting after their mother. Matthew watched them disappear into the trees with a smile. Matthew will never forget this special experience for the rest of his life.